Sometimes the words that destroy us come from the people we trust most. This is the story of Sarah, a 34-year-old teacher from Denver who thought she had built the perfect life, until one dinner conversation shattered everything she believed about herself and the man she married. Sarah had always been what people called comfortable. Not the kind of woman who turned heads when she walked into a room, but reliable, kind, and genuinely caring. She taught third grade at Mountain View Elementary, drove a sensible Honda Civic, and lived in a modest 2-bedroom house in Lakewood with her husband of 8 years, Marcus. Marcus worked in tech sales and had always been the more outgoing one in their relationship. While Sarah spent her evenings grading papers and planning lessons, Marcus networked at happy hours and weekend golf games. She admired his confidence, his easy way with people, and how he could command attention in any room. What she did not realize was how much he had grown to resent her quiet nature. The evening that changed everything started innocuously enough. Marcus had invited his college friends over for dinner, something that happened maybe 3 times a year. Sarah had spent the entire Saturday preparing, making Marcus's favorite lasagna from scratch, buying good wine, and cleaning the house until it sparkled. She wanted his friends to see that Marcus had chosen well, that she was worthy of being his wife. The dinner went smoothly at first. Sarah listened more than she spoke, laughing at the right moments, refilling glasses, playing the perfect hostess. She felt proud watching Marcus hold court, telling stories about his latest sales victories and their recent vacation to Cabo. This was their life, and despite its ordinary nature, she was grateful for it. After dinner, Sarah excused herself to start the dishes, wanting to give the guys space to catch up properly. The kitchen was separated from the dining room by a breakfast bar, and she could hear their conversation clearly as she worked. At first, it was the usual talk about work, sports, and mutual friends from college. Then someone asked Marcus about their marriage, how things were going after 8 years. "You know how it is," Marcus said with a laugh that sounded different than usual. "Marriage is work, right?" "Come on, man," one of his friends pressed. "You seem happy enough. Sarah's sweet." There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. Sarah found herself holding her breath, a soapy plate suspended in her hands. "Look, I am going to be honest with you guys," Marcus said, his voice dropping slightly but still perfectly audible from the kitchen. "I am only with her out of pity at this point." The plate slipped from Sarah's hands, but she caught it before it could crash to the floor. Her heart hammered so hard, she was sure they could hear it in the next room. "What do you mean?" another friend asked. "I mean, look at her," Marcus continued, and Sarah could practically hear the shrug in his voice. "She has gained, 30 pounds since we got married? She has no ambition, no drive. She is perfectly content teaching 8-year-olds and watching Netflix every night. When we met, I thought she had potential, you know. I thought she would grow, maybe push herself to be more. But this is it. This is all she will ever be." Sarah's hands were shaking now. She set the plate down carefully and gripped the edge of the sink. "So why stay?" the first friend asked. "Because what kind of man would I be if I left her now?" Marcus said. "She depends on me completely. Without me, she would probably end up in some studio apartment, eating frozen dinners alone. I cannot do that to someone, even if they have let themselves go completely. It is a mercy marriage at this point, but I guess that is what being a good guy means sometimes." His friends made uncomfortable noises, trying to change the subject, but the damage was done. Sarah stood frozen in her kitchen, listening to her husband describe their marriage as an act of charity. Every kind word he had ever spoken to her now felt hollow. Every "I love you" was revealed as a lie wrapped in pity. She finished the dishes mechanically, her mind completely blank. When Marcus's friends left an hour later, she hugged them goodbye and smiled, playing her role perfectly. Marcus, slightly drunk and oblivious, collapsed on the couch and asked her to bring him a beer. That night, lying next to her husband in their shared bed, Sarah stared at the ceiling and felt something cold and hard crystallize in her chest. Not rage exactly, but something quieter and more dangerous. Determination. The next morning, Marcus left for a week-long business trip to Seattle. He kissed her cheek absently and told her to have a good week, same as always. Sarah waved from the doorway and watched his car disappear down their street. Then she went inside, sat at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee, and began to plan. The first thing Sarah did was brutal in its simplicity. She looked at herself honestly. Standing naked in front of their full-length bedroom mirror, she cataloged what she saw without judgment or self-hatred, just clinical assessment. Marcus was right about the weight. She had put on 32 pounds since their wedding. Her hair had grown long and shapeless, her clothes were functional but forgettable, and her posture spoke of someone trying not to take up too much space in the world. But as she studied her reflection, Sarah realized something Marcus had missed entirely. She was only 34. She had clear skin, bright green eyes, and good bone structure hidden under the extra weight. More importantly, she had 8 years of teaching experience, a master's degree in education, and a sharp mind that she had been underutilizing for years. That Monday, Sarah joined a gym. Not the fancy CrossFit place Marcus went to, but a small, no-nonsense fitness center 3 towns over where no one knew her. She also made an appointment with a nutritionist, not to go on some crash diet, but to learn how to fuel her body properly for the first time in her adult life. The physical transformation was just the beginning. Sarah started spending her evenings differently. Instead of watching television, she enrolled in online courses. First, a certification in curriculum development, then educational technology. Finally, she began working toward a specialist degree in educational leadership. She told no one about any of this. When Marcus called from his business trips, she mentioned going for walks and eating more salads, framing it as casual lifestyle changes rather than a complete life overhaul. He seemed pleased but distracted, already mentally onto the next topic. Sarah's days developed a rhythm. School from 8 to 4, gym from 5 to 6:30, studying until 10. Weekends meant longer workouts, bulk meal preparation, and deep dives into educational research. She discovered she loved learning about innovative teaching methods and school administration. The more she studied, the more ideas she developed about how education could be better, more engaging, more effective. The weight came off steadily, not dramatically, but consistently. More importantly, Sarah began to carry herself differently. Her posture straightened. Her voice grew stronger during faculty meetings. She started contributing ideas instead of just implementing other people's plans. By November, 6 months after that devastating dinner party, Sarah had lost 25 pounds and gained something much more valuable, a vision for her future. She began researching doctoral programs in educational leadership at the University of Denver. She also started looking at job openings for curriculum coordinators and assistant principal positions. Marcus noticed the physical changes, of course. He complimented her new appearance and seemed pleased that his project was finally showing results. He had no idea that Sarah's real project had nothing to do with pleasing him. The turning point came in February, almost a year after the dinner party. Sarah's principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, called her into the office after school. Sarah's heart sank, wondering if she had somehow neglected her teaching duties while pursuing her other goals. "Sarah," Mrs. Rodriguez said, gesturing for her to sit down. "I have been watching your work this year, and I am impressed. Your students' test scores are the highest in the district. Your lesson plans are innovative, and several parents have specifically requested their children be placed in your class next year." Sarah blinked in surprise. She had been so focused on her evening studies that she had not realized how much her new knowledge was influencing her classroom teaching. More importantly, Mrs. Rodriguez continued, "I know you have been taking graduate courses. The district is looking for a new curriculum coordinator, and I would like to recommend you for the position. It would mean a $15,000 raise and the opportunity to influence education policy across all our elementary schools." Sarah's first instinct was to say she was not qualified, that surely there were better candidates. But then she remembered Marcus's words about her lack of ambition, and something fierce rose in her chest. "I would be very interested," she said instead. "When do I need to submit my application?" 2 weeks later, Sarah interviewed for the position. She walked into the district office in a perfectly fitted navy suit, her hair styled in a sleek bob, carrying a portfolio of innovative curriculum ideas she had developed during her months of study. The interview panel of 3 administrators and 2 school board members listened intently as she outlined her vision for integrated, technology-enhanced learning programs. She got the job. That evening, Marcus came home to find Sarah at the kitchen table with a bottle of champagne and Thai takeout from their favorite restaurant. He looked puzzled but pleased, probably assuming she was celebrating some milestone in his career that he had forgotten about. "What is the occasion?" he asked, loosening his tie and reaching for a glass. "I got promoted," Sarah said simply. "Curriculum coordinator for the entire elementary district. $15,000 raise, plus a budget to implement new programs." Marcus froze with the champagne bottle halfway to his glass. What are you talking about? You never mentioned interviewing for anything. I have been working toward this for almost a year, Sarah said, her voice calm and steady. Taking graduate courses, developing new teaching methods, building relationships with administrators. I wanted to make sure I was ready before I made any announcements. But why didn't you tell me? Marcus seemed genuinely confused, as if the idea that his wife might have ambitions independent of his approval had never occurred to him. Because I needed to do this for myself, Sarah said. Not for you, not for anyone else. For me. That weekend, Sarah's transformation became public in a way she had not expected. The local newspaper ran a feature story about innovative educators in the district, and Sarah's photo appeared on the front page of the Sunday Lifestyle section. The picture showed her in her office, surrounded by educational materials and awards, looking confident and accomplished. Marcus's phone started buzzing immediately. Friends and colleagues who had seen the article were calling to congratulate him on his wife's success. At their usual Sunday brunch spot, people stopped by their table to praise Sarah's work and ask about her plans for revolutionizing elementary education. For the first time in their marriage, Sarah was the center of attention, and Marcus was the one sitting quietly on the sidelines. She watched him struggle with this role reversal, his usual easy charm faltering when people asked him about his wife's achievements instead of his own. The real test came 3 months later, when Marcus decided to throw another dinner party with the same group of friends. Sarah suspected he was trying to reassert his dominance, to remind everyone who was really the successful one in their marriage. She agreed to the dinner, but with conditions. This time, she would not cook. They would order from an upscale catering company. She would not spend the evening in the kitchen doing dishes. She would join the conversation as an equal participant. The night of the dinner party, Sarah emerged from their bedroom in a black dress that showcased her transformed figure and a confidence that was impossible to miss. Marcus did a double take when he saw her, and she caught a flicker of something that might have been uncertainty in his eyes. During dinner, the conversation flowed differently than it had a year earlier. Instead of discussing Marcus's sales numbers and golf handicap, his friends peppered Sarah with questions about her new role, her educational philosophy, and her plans for the district. She found herself holding court, describing pilot programs and innovative teaching methods with passion and expertise. "Sarah, this is incredible," one of Marcus's friends said over dessert. "I had no idea you were doing such groundbreaking work. My sister is a teacher in California, and she would love to hear about your integrated curriculum model. I would be happy to share resources with her," Sarah said graciously. "We are seeing remarkable results, especially with our struggling readers." As the evening progressed, Marcus grew quieter and quieter. His friends, who had once hung on his every word, were clearly more interested in Sarah's professional insights than his latest sales victories. The dynamic had shifted completely, and everyone could feel it. After the guests left, Marcus confronted Sarah in their bedroom. His face was flushed, and she could see the anger he had been suppressing all evening. "What was that about?" he demanded. "You completely dominated the conversation. You made me look like an idiot in front of my friends." Sarah paused in removing her earrings and looked at him steadily. "I answered questions they asked me about my work? How does that make you look like an idiot?" "You know what I mean," Marcus said. "You were showing off, trying to prove some point." "What point would that be?" Sarah's voice remained calm, which seemed to frustrate him even more. "I do not know," Marcus snapped. "But you have been different lately, ever since this job thing started. You think you are better than me now." Sarah turned to face him fully. "No, Marcus. I think I am better than I was. There is a difference." Something in her tone must have penetrated his anger, because he stopped mid-rant and stared at her. For a moment, Sarah considered letting it go, maintaining the peace, playing the supportive wife role she had perfected over 8 years. Instead, she made a different choice. "Do you remember the dinner party last spring?" she asked. "When you told your friends you were only with me out of pity?" The color drained from Marcus's face. "Sarah, I heard every word," she continued quietly, "about how I had let myself go, how I had no ambition, how you were doing me a favor by staying married to me. Do you remember saying that?" Marcus opened and closed his mouth several times, but no words came out. "For 8 years, I made myself smaller to make you feel bigger," Sarah said. "I dimmed my light so yours could shine brighter. I convinced myself that was what love looked like. Sacrifice, selflessness, gratitude for being chosen by someone like you. That is not," Marcus started, but Sarah held up her hand. "I am not angry anymore," she said, and realized it was true. I am grateful, actually. That night, listening to you describe our marriage as charity work was the wake-up call I needed. It made me realize I had been living someone else's idea of who I should be instead of becoming who I actually am. So what happens now? Marcus asked, his voice small. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. This man who had once seemed so confident and impressive now appeared diminished, uncertain. She felt a mixture of pity and clarity that surprised her with its strength. Now I continue becoming the person I was always meant to be, she said, with or without you. That choice is yours to make. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Marcus fought it at first, alternating between promises to change and accusations that Sarah had become someone he did not recognize. He was right about the second part. She had become someone new, someone he had never bothered to know or encourage. Sarah kept the house. With her new salary and Marcus's buyout of his portion of their shared assets, she was financially stable for the first time in her adult life. More importantly, she was emotionally free. 2 years later, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, she had finished her doctoral degree in record time, stood in front of the school board as they announced her appointment as the district's new assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. The auditorium was packed with teachers, parents, and community members who had come to support her vision for educational excellence. From the podium, Sarah could see several familiar faces in the crowd, Mrs. Rodriguez beaming with pride. Several former colleagues who had watched her transformation with amazement and respect. Even a few of Marcus's old friends who now invited her to their social gatherings independently of their former connection to her ex-husband. Marcus himself was notably absent, though Sarah had heard through mutual acquaintances that he was dating someone new, a 26-year-old marketing assistant who laughed at all his jokes and seemed impressed by his moderate success in tech sales. As Sarah outlined her 5-year plan for revolutionizing education in their district, she felt a deep satisfaction that had nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with authentic achievement. She had not transformed herself to spite Marcus or prove him wrong. She had done it because she finally understood her own worth and potential. The woman who had once stood in her kitchen, devastated by her husband's casual cruelty, no longer existed. In her place stood someone who commanded respect through competence, who inspired others through vision, and who had learned the difference between being chosen and choosing herself. That evening, Sarah returned to her house, now redecorated in colors she actually liked, filled with books and research materials and evidence of a life fully lived. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat on her back deck, looking out at the garden she had planted the previous spring. Her phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from colleagues, friends, and family members who had watched her journey with admiration. Among them was a text from her sister in Portland. "Mom and Dad would be so proud. You are exactly who you were meant to be." Sarah smiled and set the phone aside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference in the lives of teachers and students across the district. She had proposals to review, budgets to analyze, and meetings with principals who were eager to implement her innovative programs. But tonight, she simply sat in the quiet satisfaction of a life reclaimed and a future full of possibility. The journey from that devastating dinner party to this moment of triumph had taken 3 years. 3 years of early mornings and late nights, of pushing herself beyond every limitation she had accepted, of choosing growth over comfort at every turning point. Sarah had learned that the most elegant revenge is not proving others wrong about you. It is proving yourself right about what you are capable of becoming. She had discovered that pity is a poor foundation for any relationship, but self-respect is an excellent foundation for everything else. As the sun set over the mountains west of Denver, Dr. Sarah Mitchell raised her glass in a silent toast to the woman she used to be, the woman who had found the strength to become someone entirely new, and the limitless possibilities that stretched ahead. Sometimes the words that destroy us also set us free. Sometimes the cruelest thing anyone can say becomes the catalyst for our greatest transformation. And sometimes the life we build from the ashes of our old self is more beautiful than anything we ever dared to imagine. Sarah's story proves that it is never too late to refuse the limitations others place on us. It is never too late to choose ambition over comfort, growth over stagnation, self-respect over the illusion of being needed. Most importantly, it is never too late to discover that the person you were always meant to be was just waiting for permission to emerge. The dinner party that had once represented her deepest humiliation now felt like the first day of her real life. The man who had seen her as a charity case had inadvertently given her the greatest gift possible: the motivation to see herself clearly and the determination to become everything he had said she could never be. In the end, Sarah had not just proven Marcus wrong, she had proven herself right about her own unlimited potential. And that, more than any revenge, was the sweetest victory of all. If this story of transformation and quiet strength resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of personal growth and triumph. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to become who you were meant to be. Your support helps us continue bringing these powerful stories of resilience and renewal to people who need them most.